Hello, hello. Thank you all so much for being here with us. You are live at the expo floor in Las Vegas. It's reInvent 2024, and I'm so happy to be here, but I am a little bit sad that it's the last day of reInvent. I'm here with my wonderful friend Kyle. My name is Fiona McCann. I am a solutions architect at AWS in the public sector. I work with nonprofits, and Kyle, why don't you tell them what you do?
Yeah, so I am Kyle Dickinson, and I'm a senior security solution architect that specializes in threat detection and incident response. Really long-winded way of saying I help customers understand how to respond to security events and be more confident in operating workloads because they understand the security best practices. But I also have a unique position to where I also get to teach a lot about security, both internally and then to our partners. And then I also present here at reInvent and Reinforce.
Right.
Training and learning has always been something I've been passionate about.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited for the next, 17
minutes?
17 minutes we have to talk about making security approachable.
Right, yes.
For those.
Security can be a somewhat intimidating topic. I mean, it's something that's very important. Things can be high risk. You have to do a lot to make sure that your workloads are safe and secure. So I think that it will be really helpful for all of you who are watching, who are tuned in, to get this insight and information on how to upskill and how to make something that might seem intimidating at first much more approachable, because we have the resources here to make that approachable. My first question to you is, why do you care so much about this?
I think I care about it because, back in my day, back in my day, walking uphill both ways in the snow, when I was learning, and this kind of also stemmed from a conversation that, we had with Swami with just making learning approachable. When I was learning about this whole cloud security thing, or even just security as a young lad,
As a young lad,
there weren't resources available to really just learn. It was all kind of hey, figure it out. If it breaks, then you got to fix it.
Right.
Or as my daughter says, you got to bix it. Bix it, daddy. And so I really want to bring awareness to those that want to learn security and make it approachable, because also understanding there's different ways to absorb information.
Right.
Not every learner is the same way.
I can't learn auditorily. I have to read things for it to really sink into my brain.
See,
what's your way?
I am a hands-on.
You're hands-on?
I'm a hands-on, workshop-y kind of person. And so I really can resonate with that because, if my high school teachers are watching, hi, I could not sit in a traditional classroom setting and learn that way. I had to do it on my own.
Right. And so what you're saying is that, back then when you were wanting to upskill in security, there was kind of only one path, one way to do it, and it wasn't accessible for everyone. But what you're saying is that now we have resources for different types of learners, different skill levels that are available for our listeners.
Yeah, and actually through the month of October and through November, I was honored to be able to do what we called the AWS Power Hour for AWS training and certification, where over 6 weeks, we went over the different security domains of the security specialty certification.
Okay. And what are those domains?
Those are threat detection and incident response, security logging and monitoring, infrastructure security, identity and access management, data protection, and management and security governance. Yeah, I was cheating.
Screen share.
There it is. Yeah.
We thought you were on a good off memory. You weren't.
No, see, memory recollection's also not that good either. But what it did is it provided this opportunity to where we were tying someone from training and certification who's a professional trainer to someone who does security as a profession, and then live streaming and having people dial in virtually and ask questions as we did demos in the most chaotically hilarious way. But it was just something to make it approachable, and that's the one thing that I always harp on when we're looking at teaching individuals. Right now on the expo floor, we have this giant 20 by 20 foot Security Central.
I've seen it. It's pretty cool. You have what is it? 6 different TVs up on the wall with a little whiteboard adjacent to each one.
Yep.
And so each of these 6? Oh, are these the same
kind of
sections as these? Okay.
Almost, yeah. We could kind of slice it that way.
Okay.
And my goal is there is no question that should go unanswered, because you should be able to ask even the most simplest questions or the most complex questions. Understanding everyone has different skill levels. And I do that when I approach my conversations with customers too. Everyone's on their own journey.
Right.
Meet them where they're at and then lift them up.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure that we have an audience here with a variety of different levels of experience with security. If you have questions right now that you're curious about, please do feel free to throw them in the chat. For someone who's at that lowest level though, and has an interest in wanting to learn but doesn't have experience yet, do you think that there's a good starting place? Like, is there a ground level service at AWS or focus area that someone should start with?
Yeah, and so AWS Skill Builder, actually, I'll go ahead and bring it up on my screen.
Please do.
Bippity boppity screen.
Oh, it's magic.
There we go. Didn't even need to do the.
He's incredible.
I didn't need
Where
to
was
do the
the
demo.
dance?
Well, I'm not doing too much of a demo.
Okay.
Fine. We can, yeah, just.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now it's going to be a fantastic demo.
Now it's going to be a clip somewhere, I promise. So Skill Builder is awesome because this is for all of training and certification. So whether you want to get into security or DevOps or databases,
right,
whatever, networking, this is a good jumping off point.
Okay.
Now, this is, a bit of hands-on learning and like lecture learning as well. And
when you say hands-on, are we in the console here?
Yeah, so you're going through these different workshops through the AWS console, which again is how I.
That's how you said you like to learn.
That's how I learn. Yeah, I have broken more things than fixed through that crude way of learning. Yeah, and so through the Skill Builder page, I mean, I have the security specialty certification up here, just to kind of highlight. You have
what would we be looking at?
You have the exam prep. There's the digital courses. You got game-based learning. So those that are like, all about
Simulearn.
Yeah. So those that are about like gamifying learning.
Okay.
Like we kind of do with Capture the Flags or like AWS Jam. We gamify it and you're still learning. And so, there's a bunch of free modules and then there's the paid modules. Now, we reference the different modules for the different domains during Power Hour and provide links to those during our home fund that we did.
So it sounds like, is Power Hour a more interactive way of doing this Skill Builder course?
It was a live stream that was recorded, now lives on the internet like all things do now. And so if they want to watch it, they could go back and kind of see the taping, the recording, the DVR version of it, if you will.
Well, I mean, if we have anyone here who's interested in doing that, where do they find that? If you want to go back, watch these Skill Builder videos?
Yeah, so you can actually go to the Training and Certification AWS Power Hour Security Specialty page.
Perfect.
Where you can watch it on demand. And this is how I was able to rattle off all the different domains we covered. And so we also include a link to all the resources that we covered too.
I see. So are all of these equally important to a security specialist?
I would say so. But going back to, if someone just wants to learn more about AWS too, the Skill Builder has the cloud foundationals. And that's going to help you kind of understand the language that is AWS services. Like, what is an EC2? What is a Lambda? What is an S3? All of those. Because I say if you try... I mean, depends on, again, how you like to learn. I'll jump in the deep end before I know how to swim.
Yeah.
But to ease that, like, to reduce the friction of
getting
started, it's easier to understand what services are actually doing what.
Right.
So then you could build that knowledge off of that foundation.
Right.
Oh, kind of like building a house.
Because before we can know that Amazon Macy is looking through S3 to find data, we need to first know what S3 is.
Exactly. And, is S3 a file system or is it an object store?
Right.
And this, I'm also coming from experience to where I was a security person before I became a cloud security person.
Interesting. Okay. On-prem environments?
Yeah, on-prem environments, the incident response background, threat detection, forensics, all the cool things that you see on hacker movies, right?
Okay.
And so I needed to quickly understand what an AWS was.
Right.
And so
what is an AWS?
What is an AWS? And had I known that, hey, there's like foundationals to kind of help you understand what an EC2 is, and that it probably would have made my life a heck of a lot easier.
I mean, it does seem like we really are providing different types of resources for people who are coming from all different backgrounds and education levels and experience levels to upskill. For someone who, is like you and maybe has that on-prem security background, what do you find as some of the biggest differences between that type of security professional and working in the cloud?
I would say just how things are kind of just architected. And the one thing I learned very quickly is that the scale of what can become your AWS environment.
Interesting.
One week we had 5 AWS accounts as we're moving to AWS, and then 3 weeks later we had hundreds of accounts.
Yeah.
And then in 6 months we ended up having like 400 AWS accounts. But each of them connected back on-prem differently or went directly out to the internet. But yeah, and so one thing I also want to capitalize on, though, is like, learning the fundamentals.
Right.
But if you're also just like, hey, I'm a self-paced learner, let me get the nitty-gritty. I already know what an AWS console is.
Right.
There's these awesome things under AWS Workshops, which we'll bring up on the screen now.
3, 2, 1.
Got it. So AWS Workshops has all the different like technology topics you could think of for AWS. Now, I'm biased, so of course I'm going to look at...
We're going to head on over to security.
We're going to head over to security.
Who would have thought?
Oh, come on. Yep.
Is this alphabetical?
Yeah, it's alphabetical. You know what? We're going to search. So
let's maybe search that up.
If you're like, I want to get more hands-on with guard duty, like Amazon guard duty, because that's just like a gap that you're like, hey,
this is something I'd like to learn.
Yeah. You know,
I've heard about it. I'm interested. I don't know yet.
Yeah, so we could look at Amazon guard duty and see. Of course, I'm going to search for something that might not.
Oh, maybe there's a space there.
Oh, you know what? Oh my goodness.
Guard.
Okay, you know what? Hey,
space duty.
Actually, you know what? This is a awesome topic for security professionals and AI now.
There you go. Responsible AI.
And so what these will do is these will give you like a workbook format. And then step-by-step instructions.
I see.
And these have 2 modalities, right? So you can run these in your own AWS account. We'll give you that CloudFormation template, so you can deploy it in your own environment and tinker as you will. Or at events like reInvent, Reinforce, or even at some AWS summits, we may be having specific topics of conversation, so we might bring like a workshop or 2 along with us.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And so then you can be, searching for the right session at one of these events, and then you can interact maybe with someone who can answer your questions as you're going along.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do before I worked for AWS and would attend these conferences is go to the workshops, get the hands-on learning, and then pepper the facilitator with questions.
Yeah.
I just always asking questions, always learning, always absorbing.
So we're talking about sessions. I mean, we are here at reInvent. Is there anything that you think that maybe someone new to security or someone who has experience in security could be excited about? Or were there any sessions that were especially interesting to you from here?
So much launches. And really, like, keeping up with this kind of stuff is kind of intimidating. But there is actually this awesome blog. Justin, if you're watching, thank you for writing this awesome blog. Let's bring it back up.
3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Gorgeous.
Love it. The theme is brats.
Absolutely brats.
And so this goes over the different topics that happened in the service launches and announcements. One of my favorite things that was announced is the new security incident response service.
So what is that?
That is essentially your incident response team with AWS, to where there still is the customer incident response team, and now they're making it so they can extend the customer's incident response capability.
What kind of incidents are we responding to?
So security events could be like exposed IAM credentials, or like maybe an unauthorized user deleted something. There's a top 6 that we actually have workshops on too. Speaking of workshops, we have more workshops. To where it'll help you simulate. But that was really cool and groundbreaking. It was great to see that team do that.
Well, I mean, this is a very exciting place to be for someone who's interested in security, and it's wonderful to see these resources pulled together all in one place. So we'll definitely want to have that in the chat for our users to get to see.
Yeah, and we actually break it down in the blog by like the different types of topics of security. So like incident response, threat detection, data protection, network and infrastructure, application security, and so you can work down it and consume it in a way that you're just like, oh, I'm more interested in threat detection and incident response.
Among those 6 categories, if there's one that you're specifically interested in, there's a variety of...
I'm really biased to the anatomy of a ransomware event that impacts data residing in AWS. I heard the speaker's fantastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder if that speaker maybe looks something like someone who's sitting up here?
Probably
a little bit, something like that. So I'm curious, do you think that the security specialty exam is something that someone could step right into? Do we have other exams for people to take beforehand that would help out in preparation for it?
And so in Skill Builder, there's actually two paths that we can look at. There's like getting the cloud foundational or fundamentals, and then looking at getting the specialty cert, and that's like for a security analyst. Now for like security architect, it would be like the fundamentals and then the solution architect associate, and then the security specialty certification. So it depends on the breadth and depth you want to get into. But yeah, I would say if you're brand new to AWS, you're just learning what these acronyms are.
Welcome.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us.
We're excited to have you here.
Yeah. Look at the foundationals, just to understand the language that we toss around all the time when we say
There's
bedrock.
a lot of acronyms
There really
at AWS. I mean, even working here and talking about it all the time, sometimes I'm Googling in the middle of a meeting because I'm like, I forgot what that one acronym is.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Fiona's an acronym.
Fiona is an acronym.
No,
I actually am an acronym.
Yeah, and so there's different ways to consume this information, and I always advocate to, hey, find out what you like and how you want to learn, and then we have resources for that. And I always open up my my LinkedIn DMs or my email. Say, hey, I want to learn more.
Hey, you heard that. You heard him right. His LinkedIn DMs are open. He's here to answer your questions.
Yeah, we actually also have a security segment on air called Lockdown, where we do talk about service releases and announcements, and I get to pepper the service teams with different questions of like, tell me more about this feature, tell me more about the service. Hey.
I mean, I think that's also a really great place where, you know, if you are interested in security and this is something that you're kind of upskilling in currently, what a great way to get to ask those questions and have that visibility with, you know, service team members who are putting out that really exciting stuff. They get to ask those questions directly and get those answers in real time.
And again, I'm all about making things approachable and accessible.
Totally.
And it's not every day that someone could speak to a team member that made this thing, which is legendary.
Yeah, and then because then you have it broken down in a conversational level where anyone, you don't need to worry about, you know, whether you have the right amount of experience to understand it, because they're really breaking down those topics and making it very digestible.
Yeah.
When is your lockdown show? How do people tune in?
So keep out for an announcement in 2025 because we're going to be changing some things up for the scheduling, and then we'll get rocking out.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
So I want to know, if you have someone who's listening today and, you know, they've been interested in wanting to learn about security, haven't quite started yet, what is one final message that you'd like to leave them with?
Be curious.
Be curious.
Be curious. Just follow the rabbit hole.
Follow the rabbit hole. Be curious. Find out what it is that, you know, is your interest area among those 6 potentially.
Yeah.
And start learning.
Security is such a very wide topic when it comes to AWS. So it's like, do you want to do network security, threat detection, and then just track that down, run it down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, I think that's going to be really useful for our viewers who are watching and who are interested in security. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for talking about the resources at AWS. It's always such a pleasure to get to talk to you, Kyle. And for all of those of you who are tuned in, don't go anywhere. We're sending it off to Nick, who's in Mandalay Bay talking about Gen AI game day. Off to you, Nick. Have a great day, everyone.